Welcome to the Maslow Show, where we bring more light everywhere through heart-to-heart conversations. Welcome back to the Maslow Show. I'm your host again, Alysha Ellis, and I have a very good friend, family of mine. Dee Jay Doc is in the building. Let's give him some love.
Yes, so glad to be here with you today.
Man, how's it been?
It's been good.
You've been busy. You've been busy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do my best. Doc does so much, right? You do so many different things in this city. Refresh Collective, one of the co-founders, leading entrepreneurs in that movement, which you're doing. You're a hip hop artist. You're getting ready to launch an album, among so many other things. Creator, designer, artist. Share a little bit about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I am just a local hip hop artist from Cleveland, Ohio. And I always believed that a lot of good could come through hip hop and through our expression of hip hop and bringing people together to create. And so when I was younger, I just started making music. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just wanted to do something good with it. And through the years, it turned out that I ended up starting a record label / curriculum development company called Cypher Style, and also the nonprofit Refresh Collective, where we mentor youth through hip hop. Man,
when you say youth, it's not like 10 or 4 or 10 youth. At this point, there's probably thousands of youth that has gone through your program. That's how we got connected. I was trying to also peep your hat, midlife crisis.
We can talk more about this hat in a minute
talk about
too.
The hat.
Yeah, it's got a story.
Me and Doc connected, I was trying to think about this earlier, probably 2016, 2015. Which just a lot of the work that we're doing in the city around food access, nutrition education, using food in the garden to teach youth, and then you had the hip hop infused. So you've done so much. I obviously want to talk about how you kind of got here, and for people who may not know, because I know your story a little bit intimately, which I'm privy to that. But for those who may not know, why hip hop for you?
Yeah, well, I could just launch into a little bit of my story, but I did not hear hip hop music. This is crazy to think about, until I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And I remember my cousin, he had his headphones on, and he's like, yo, you got to hear this. And he puts that, first of all, why did I not hear hip hop until that point? That's a whole other story. But he puts the headphones on my head, and it was Beastie Boys, Paul Revere, and instantly, I was just in another world. I was like, yo, what is this? This form of articulate and passionate expression, I had to know what this was, and I had to learn more about it. And it's almost like I knew I had to do this. And, for me, when I was a kid, I was like the shyest kid in class. I was the kid that would never raise his hand. I never talked to teachers. Like, I was just, I don't know. I was very nervous and had a lot of anxiety. And what I started doing was, in the back of class, I would be just writing lyrics, and I'd be trying to emulate the rhythmic patterns of some of my favorite MCs, and I would create the same exact pattern to like a DOS Effect song, but like with my own lyrics. And it was me trying to just go deep and articulate what is inside of me, and what, if I really wasn't shy, like what would I share with the world? But as a shy kid, you can't really imagine like getting up in front of people and sharing. So if I was gonna yell at the top of my lungs something so articulate, if I was gonna do that as a shy kid, it's gotta be the deepest thing about me. It's gotta be something that's worth going through the fear, and we talked about this earlier, to get past the fear to express. And so that's what I did throughout my teenage life, was just write lyrics and learn how to make beats, learn how to scratch. And I was kind of like a self-made hip-hop artist with no real mentors. No one taught me how to do it. I just kind of learned on the fly.
So I'm sure that a lot of your own personal experience of not having mentors pushed you into Refresh Collective, of wanting to empower youth. I mean, I've been a part of some of your programs. They're amazing. We should definitely be advocating for more of them, not only just here, but I know you're also in Cincinnati, and you guys are growing throughout the state. So in the sense of working with youth, like, why? That's not everyone's passion. Not everyone wakes up and like, I want to work with young kids or young students. Like, for you, what's the purpose behind working with youth?
Yeah, I guess while I didn't have too many mentors in hip hop, I did listen to a lot of artists, and there was one particular artist that most ever heard of. His name was D. Boy Rodriguez, and I used to listen to his album in 1989, and then his second album dropped 1990. But by the time his album was on the shelf, he had already been shot and murdered or killed. And I think it was probably a murder. But the thing about D. Boy Rodriguez was when I was just consuming his albums, he's basically like all he did was try to use his music to benefit his community. He was in Dallas, Texas, and he was basically helping kids get out of gangs using hip hop. And that was something that really touched me when I was younger, was like seeing what he was doing and how he was affecting youth with his music. And so ever since then, I think I always kind of felt like, yo, I gotta live, kind of carry on that legacy.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what's your funnest, I guess, memory with working with you? I'm sure you have many.
You said favorite memory working with youth?
Yeah, I'm sure there's so many stories from the garden to doing T-shirts to doing clothing. Like, is there one that kind of comes to mind that's like, this is why I do it?
Okay, I'm gonna try to find one, but I could say that I have worked with over 10,000 youth in Cleveland, writing, recording, and performing their own songs.
That's powerful.
So I could definitely say that when I got into this, thinking like, I want to change some lives with this, what happened was my life got changed. I mean, that many youth to work that close and that intimately, like, it's been truly amazing. And if I was gonna say a story, here's one story of many. But this was my neighbor right across the street. His name's D. And we got to know each other before, I think he was 12, before I even started our first hip hop camp. But when we started the camp, I invited him to come. He kind of grew up, his teenage years being a part of our program. And one year he came to me, he was like, yo, I want to make a song with you, DJ Doc. I want it to be a song that is telling my perspective as a student and your perspective as a teacher living on the same street, dealing with the same gun violence in our neighborhood that we've dealt with. And he already had a title. He wanted to be called I Pray. And I think just being able to sit down with him and create that song was so meaningful for me, that he had that idea and he brought that to me, thinking that we need to really make that song. And that song is actually on SoundCloud, on Refresh Collective SoundCloud. You could check that one out.
That's so dope.
Yeah, so that was a powerful one, and I think it's powerful for a lot of reasons. Like one is because we were dealing with a lot of different issues, and we still do. Most people in Cleveland know this, and I think it's such a poignant message, and it's something that we really had to like grapple with. Is like why, and just what's the meaning of this, and can things ever change? And so he wanted it to be called I Pray. So part of it was like, okay, like you are saying that God can help with this, but then at the same token, you're saying, are you actually saying, I don't think there's anything that can help with this. The only thing I could do is just pray. You know what I'm saying? And so we prayed together through writing the song.
Oh, that's powerful. So I know this, and I want to open this up for the audience and people who's gonna be watching. A lot of what you teach is pure, and we don't see that. There's a lot of youth-led programs in our city, a lot of folks doing that type of work, but there's hidden motives, there's agendas, right? And one thing that we've had many conversations around the challenges in the culture here in the city, and what the work you're doing is so pure and so authentic. How do you stay in that space in the midst of the politics, the bureaucracy, the violence? I mean, there's so much, and these are real lives. This was your real life as a child growing up and seeing these things. So how do you stay, grounded in everything going on around you?
Yeah, I think for one thing, it's like working with students. That's the grounding thing, because it's just, as much as like we have a nonprofit that's now in 2 cities and we got to write grants and we got to do all these different things, ultimately like it's all about working with these kids. And the time you spend with them that's the life-changing part for everybody.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that I think at the core of everything is a phrase or a principle or maybe a command, which is love your neighbor as yourself. And that's something that I've tried almost my whole life to live by. And I could say I'm probably I barely started to know what that means. But that's the heart behind why we started Refresh Collective and the work we've done in the neighborhoods is just to get to know our neighbors, do the hard work of building trust and coming together to love each other better. And I think that is how the change happens, and that is how things will change.
Yeah, and we're witnessing that, right? I think the work is obviously a testament not only to your work ethic, but what God wants to see happen here in the city through Refresh Collective and all the collaborations, what we've done, and what you're working with so many collaborators in this city to continue to empower youth. And it doesn't just stop in your four corners of your facility. You're connecting them with job opportunities. Yeah. You're performing with them. You're bringing artists to them to help nurture and empower. So, in that, like, how do you, in a sense of purpose, like, how does purpose drive, your decisions in your day to day? Yeah.
Well, I could say that I know how hip hop has helped me, going from like a shy kid to becoming able to speak in front of you now. But I've seen that kind of transformation times 10, yes, times 100 with students, yeah, who have been through such difficult circumstances, way more difficult than anything I've ever been through. And seeing the resilience that they have and that they can find. And then when they write their songs and come out the other side, having shared a lot of times messages about the abuse they went through, or losing a loved one to gun violence, or just putting their heart into the song and seeing them come out the other side, like finding acceptance among their peers,
right,
and being able to share that stuff and get that positive feedback from the audiences that they get to share, and seeing them now speak in front of other people and get interviews like this, and the confidence they have to move toward their dreams.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm, even knowing some of the students and seeing them like at maybe the 8th grade and then seeing them graduate and how you bring those students then back. It's like, it doesn't end. And I think that's so beautiful what you're creating. And so you give out a lot, right? So many entrepreneurs and creators, we give so much. And so for you to receive, you're about to release an album, which I'm so excited about because so much of our time is in the work. And so for you to take a step back and be like, wait, I'm an artist too, right? So what's been that process of releasing this, piece of art and artistry for you in this in this season?
Yeah, well, I got to give a shout out to all my Refresh Collectives team, to Lee and Cheryl and Jeremy and Zach and Morgan and everyone in Cincinnati and Cleveland, because they also understand the importance of me taking the time to put out my art, because it's been 14 years since we started Refresh and I haven't put stuff out because I haven't had the time.
Right.
Actually, this album coming out this October is going to contain songs I've written over like the past 14 years, some of them with the students. And so the fact that my team is kind of rallied around me, giving me that space to say, no, on Fridays, Doc is going to be creating and he's going to be learning how to put his stuff out. And I think that's given me a lot of life this year for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure like in that process, you're becoming a different person too, because there's one thing about creativity and then releasing your creativity, right? We just heard an amazing performance. In that, it's like, for me, and I can just speak for myself, like I feel ignited once releasing, like even doing these shows and just connecting with other creators, there's a point of release for us, and some people get it from like working out or talk therapy or whatever the case may be. How do you feel in the studio, the buttons recording, like what's in your mind for DJ Doc?
Yeah, well, I actually am getting more of that feeling on the putting it out part, because I've been recording for years, but then it just doesn't ever come out. And so this is even weird for me to think about this, but I used to make cassette tapes when I was younger, then CDs, and then I put out nothing. I just put out my first single on all streaming channels.
Name of the single.
You know, so I'm learning now from my students, like, how do you use the streaming channels? Because I'm kind of old school. I even said I'm gonna have a CD release concert, but it's not a CD release concert. It's I don't know what you call
What's
it
the
now.
name of the song?
Okay, so that one's called Silent Killer.
And they can find it, listen
And
to it.
that one you
where-
can find on Spotify, on my Instagram, and everywhere, which is actually a re-release of a song I made with some of our students about lead poisoning in
Yes.
Cleveland.
Real.
So just actually putting that out felt good, and it also felt like, I guess, two things. They say good music never dies. And so this song, I made this like now 6 or 7 years, 2016 I made the song. And so if it's good, it's still gonna hit now, I hope. But also the fact that issues that we were so dealing with in our
Yes.
neighborhoods and communities then, and we made it, and here we are, like how many years later, it's like the same exact issue, we're still dealing with it, it's just as relevant.
Yep.
I don't know, that's not really a positive thought, that's more of a negative thought, but it means that at least I know that my artwork still matters. That's why I need to put it out, because we still are dealing with these same issues in our neighborhoods.
So with that, like, how do you encourage youth in everything that's going around? I mean, a lot of it is generational. So same thing that their parents dealt with, our parents dealt with. It's still so vivid and right in our faces in our communities. How do you encourage them when those hard times, manifest and come right into their faces?
We do it in a cipher style type of way, and that's why we called our curriculum development company Cipher Style. Just like in an old hip hop cipher, you got everyone coming around in a circle to support one another. Everyone's testing out their new skills. That's how we run our programs, and that's what it is, because it's like when you live you think you're the only one going through it, that's where you can't find solutions or find your own way. But in a cipher, when other people are expressing what they're going through, and you're like, yo, I'm going through the same thing, like, we can vibe on that. That's how you're dealing with it, here's how I'm dealing with it. Now all of a sudden you're pulling our solutions together to be inspired by each other, and we need that. We need that live in person, not just on social media. We actually need that live in person. And so that's been a powerful force for us and for our students to just, hip hop is about having fun. And so when you're having fun making music and you're in that cipher with other students just going, it's like you can let your guard down, and pretty soon the depth starts to come, and then the pain starts to come, and then the healing starts to come. And that's what we see happening through the recording and music making process all the time.
It's so awesome. I love it. I love what you do. I've been a huge supporter of your work since I met you and been able to not just witness it, but be a part of it in some capacities over the years. So I want to just open it up for any questions maybe from the audience. We'll take a couple questions. Yeah, Cam.
What's your why?
What's my why? My why.
When I say why, I mean what hurts you. Like, what's the motivating factor?
Yeah, I mean, I think like at first it was I really wanted to be a rapper. And I did always believe that there's so much positivity that could come through hip hop. And that's where I wanted to put my focus. That's how I started. But then as soon as I lived in Glenville for 13 years, and I used to do prayer walks around the neighborhood, just being like, opening my hands, like, I want my music to benefit, and I just want to find a way to get to know my neighbors and be a benefit of some kind, not knowing how to begin. And then we did our first hip hop camp. From that very first camp, it's the students I met, and it's the lyrics that are still like ingrained in my head. And that's all I needed was that first experience, and then that's my why, because it's like I got to find the funding to do another program, and the students you meet and you see them grow, that's my why. We got to do this again, and we're not stopping anytime soon, man. You know what I'm saying? One of my first students, his name was Deshaun. He lived down the street. His lyric, and he didn't even ever rap before, and he said, "We're all different, but together there's commitment." We got the hold on. I got a concussion recently, so sometimes I forget stuff. He said, the song was called Unity. we got the commitment. I forget it. It's not gonna come back to me, so you get the picture. But yeah, Deshaun was just speaking on, he saw the neighborhood come together in our project and the commitment we had for each other, and that's something that that was gonna be a rock for him going forward, and that's my why.
That's dope. Another question. Yeah.
What are you listening to right now?
You don't want to know what I'm listening to right now? I'm wearing this hat called Midlife Crisis because I'm 46, about to turn 47. And so as a hip hop artist in particular, you gotta go through that midlife crisis. Like, am I still cool? Can I still put out stuff? I think hip hop's going through a midlife crisis, but it's actually one of my closest friends. He's been a thought partner with me for years. Just moved his family to Cleveland. He goes by Quill the Messenger, and his album is about to drop in September called Midlife Crisis. So we got two midlifers right here putting out albums side by side. He's actually in the building. You'll see him on stage in a little bit.
So you listening to his album?
That's who I'm listening to right now.
Right.
Oh yeah, all day.
I love it. Another question.
Who's your favorite artist?
Favorite artist? Like of all time or something like that? I mean, that's like saying, what's my favorite food? It depends on the scenario, you know? But I love Lauryn Hill.
Can't go wrong with Lauryn.
Mm-hmm. Q-Tip. You said my favorite, right? So I can't go anymore. I said two.
Not top 10.
I gave you a.
We'll take it.
I gave you two.
I love it. I love to end the show with a pure message. That's what the platform is all about.
Right.
What's your pure message in this season, Doc?
My pure message, I'll stick with this one for now. 1 week, one goal, one action. And it'll mean more in a little bit when I do the song. But there's a lot of tough things going around, hard things to deal with, things that you guys want to see change made. And sometimes it's overwhelming. But if you just kind of break it down with your journal open, let me just think about this week. Let's make one goal. And maybe it's the area of life that you've had the least time. It always gets crowded out. Mm-hmm. For me, it was actually making music.
Right.
And out of that one goal for this week, what's the one action I could take that's going to push that bar forward and do that?
That's dope.
And that's how faith becomes,
Yeah.
It happens right in front of you as you take action.
That's the pure message. I love it. How can people learn more about you, get in touch with you?
Yeah, you could look me up, Dee Jay Doc, DeeJayDoc. You'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me on Instagram and also Spotify. I have a single dropping next week, but it's going to actually show up tomorrow, so you guys can get the first listen of a song called It's a Vibe.
And the name of the album?
We'll be performing that in this minute, too. The album is called Trust Belt City.
Trust Belt City. Ooh, play on Cleveland. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Doc. I appreciate
Thank you so
all
much
that
for
you do. Let's
having me
give him
on
a
the
round of
show, the
applause.
Masleray Show, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, Doc has been working, dedicated his whole life to transforming the lives of young people. Definitely been a huge inspiration of what I do and what I love to do. So just to be on a stage with you, just to, you're about to blow it up here. But just want to thank you for joining us. And for all of you tuning in, again, you're tuning into the Masleray Show, where we bring more light everywhere through heart-to-heart conversations. Again, my name is Alysha L, and I'm signing off. Peace.
Peace.